So my name is George, and I am definitely an alcoholic and an addict. It's really my pleasure to be here. It's the first time I actually speak, so I might be a little bit nervous. I do this a lot in my professional world, but it's never the same when you're looking inward instead of outward, you know. So in any case, I'm very thankful to this program, as I'm sure we all are. We should be. I'm thankful to Phil for the invitation of bringing me here, especially thankful to God my God for bringing me here as well, which has been a little bit of a miracle, and I'll tell you a little bit about that. I'm very honored and humbled, definitely, to be here, and I approve this message. So the God of my understanding really made this happen. I came here last Sunday, and I never come here on Sundays, but something happened. I guess God happened, and I woke up in the morning a little bit earlier than usual. I said, "What am I going to do?" I looked on the app, and the Coral Room had a meeting at 7:30. I've been here several times, but as I say, I go normally to my homeroom is up in Miami Lakes at the Friendship Club. But that Sunday, I decided to come down to beautiful Coral Gables, and it was the direction the sunset took me, because you go around the highway, the sunrise was right there, so it was beautiful. It was curious because Phil came up to me at the end of the meeting, and it was a beautiful meeting like always. And he came up to me and asked me, "Hey George, have you been sober for more than 90 days?" And I actually, the first reaction, of course, is always our character defects come out in the first reaction. No, I'm not going to do anything. I can't talk. No, but, I'm always thinking, let's plan a travel, let's plan a trip or something. But then I went back because I really wasn't sure if I was sober for 90 days, because I just got out of rehab maybe about a month and a half ago. I'll get back to that. But I was actually calculating how many days I was 90 days because I didn't know. And coincidentally, how God works, when I counted them, today is my 93rd day. So I'm an experienced 90-day guy now. I've got 93 days. Of course, this isn't the first time. This is not my first rodeo. I started drinking at least I remember my first drink when I was 14 years old, and I'm 54, so that makes me 40 years into this. I'm a professional drinker. I'm a professional relapser, I guess I could say. And I guess all of us are here for a purpose and a reason, and when we're reading and why we're here in the Serenity Prayer. If anything, I guess with wisdom, what I've learned is that, we learn to say things so superficially, but when we dig in and we say the same thing we were saying before, all of a sudden, it starts making more sense. And as this disease is progressive, our wisdom is also progressive to learn the lessons a little bit better. And we never 100% get it. The only person in my book that really got it 100% was Jesus, and he was able to walk on water. I don't think we can, because it's hard to be 100% of anything, really. But we're on our good track, and I think that's why we're here. He definitely made it happen for me to be here today, and I am thankful to him for that. And I'm thankful to all of you guys, and to this group, and to AA, and to the big book, to my relapses, to my rehab, to my detoxes, to all the experiences, the wives I've lost, the jobs I lost, the good experiences too, because it was fun. I'm not saying I was a miserable drunk. I was a really happy drunk until I wasn't happier anymore, or it's a progressive thing. So I'm a functional person until it wasn't functional anymore, and I still, thank God, I'm somewhat functional. So I put eggs in different baskets, and thank God I've got a couple of baskets still have a couple eggs, but I've got a bunch of baskets that don't have eggs. In any case, I'm definitely a pickle, and I've learned to be a pickle, and I accept being a pickle, because once we're pickles, we're pickles forever. And for those that don't know that story, you're a cucumber until you turn into a pickle, and then you never become a pickle again. A cucumber again. In any case, I'm a grateful alcoholic, and with the depth of that word, I'm really grateful for those reasons. Not just grateful because the first time I came in to a room maybe 10 years ago, and somebody said, "I'm a grateful alcoholic." I said, "Yeah, you're a grateful alcoholic, and I'm a moron too. What are you talking about? When you first walked in, or when I first walked into these meetings, I would walk in and say, I was comparing and not identifying. Now I identify a lot more, and I think that's a really good thing, because we're nothing, you know, we're just one little speck in the universe. We have to realize that we have to be humble. We have to start to turn those character defects into character assets, you know. In rehab, I was taught many things, as life teaches us, but this is the most recent. And, you know, one of the things I learned is that this is a genetic disease. We can't live with that guilt and that blame and all these character defects. And I'm just going to read out real quick. This is a little card I always carry around. Actually, I carry 3 of these cards around. And it has the spiritual principles, common thinking errors, the promises, the 12 steps, the 3-step prayer, the 7-step prayer, which I do every morning. It's magical, along with the serenity prayer. It has the spiritual principles and the character defects and character assets. The reason why I'm going to read this is because it's really important to understand that stopping drinking is just like, it's the beginning. It's not a solution. It's part of the solution. You know, it's what allows us to walk into these rooms. What allows us to listen and learn and try to get rid of these character defects, which we're born with the disease, but the character defects are the ones that grow, and they're progressive, trust me. And well, these are some of them. Blame, I'm reading them out to see who identifies. Blame, demanding, dependence, dishonesty, envy, false pride, feelings of inadequacy, guilt, impatience, impulsiveness, indecisiveness, intolerance, isolation, jealousy, manipulation, oversensitivity, perfectionism, procrastination, rationalization, rejection of others, rejections of self, selfishness, self-pity, vengeance, victim syndrome, and worry, among others. I can assure you that most of us have all these. If you know, if somebody doesn't, you know, congratulations. But most of us have this. And if you read this to a person who's not an alcoholic, they happen to. You know, it's not just because of alcohol that we have these character defects. That's why people go to therapists and have problems, and you know, everybody has problems. So what I'm trying to say is when we take the alcoholism in or out, we're still going to have these problems. And these are things that we grow with, and these are things that we have to get over. How do we get over it? You know, people go to therapy when the people don't drink, and I always had that resentment, character defect, of people who could drink. Like, Jesus Christ, my brother's 1 year older than me. We partied the same amount of time. He's as crazy as I am, but he could just go to bed. I never could go to bed. It's like, you're going to bed? I think every night was like, you're going to bed? And I would continue on for 2 or 3 days. In any case, again, I started at the age of 14 with my first drink. I hated that drink, but I loved that drink, you know? I hated it, but it was that feeling, like, say, ooh, like when you hear the music going, I'm here. And I knew that I didn't know. Of course I didn't know. Actually, I learned that many, many years later. But I understood now, or I understand now, that was the first, you know, that was probably when the the cucumber turned into the pickle, you know. I was ashamed, of course. They dragged me off the street. I was totally unconscious at that time. At that age, who knows how close I was to death? Nobody knows. God knows. My dad had to pick me up from the street. I was just laying there like a piece of shit, and he took me back to the house, and of course it always happens that's the day my dad had a party, and of course I had to be dragged in, and I'll never forget that. My aunts and all these people. I come from a Cuban family, so you can imagine family values and all that kind of stuff. It's hard for anybody, but for Cuban families it's especially hard to bring in a drunk 14-year-old son to bathe them and do all that. So that was the first time that I really feel ashamed, the blame and the guilt. And that, you know, that was just the trigger that set off the rest of my life. I'm not going to go into details because we only have 20 minutes. But let's just say it spiraled out of control. But in a sense, you know, on the good side, you know, I'm grateful. Why am I grateful? Because I had a good education. I had a really good family. I have a good family. They passed away. I've lost a lot. But I've gained a lot. You know, I have my 4 kids. They'll be mine forever. You know, they're presents from God. I lost my first marriage, very ugly. I'm about to lose my second marriage. We've been separated for about 10 months. I'm dealing with that. But again, I think that has pushed me to be more grateful and, you know, and to hit bottom for the 90th time. This time, I think the only really difference is that I had that gift of desperation, in the sense that, you know, this can't go on. I mean, I started spitting blood. I went on my last crusade, which God willing will be my last crusade. Was a 45-day binge, 45 days, 45 bottles of vodka, and not the little bottles, the big bottles. I started, like we all do, thinking how am I going to control this, and this is an up and down. I've been involved with drugs. I've been involved with anything you don't want to be involved with, illegally. On the drug side, I've always been very ethical in what I do. I've never stolen, or never been, I was in jail once. Here comes when you start blaming people now. But I was in jail once, and that was because somebody hit me. They were drunker than I was. Honestly, they were drunker than I could walk. They couldn't walk. But I ended up in a jail in Juarez, Mexico. So you can imagine the story there. I'm not going to go into that one either. In any case, I got out of that. That was when I was 21. Then I started my life back here in Miami. I've been living all over the world. I was born in Delaware, lived in South Florida, Orlando, moved to Brazil 4 years, lived in Venezuela for 10 years, lived in Mexico for 3 years, lived in Russia for 6 months, Romania 6 months, California, Laguna Beach, El Paso. So let's just say I've been around, and like what I tell my kids, more than being multilingual, I speak 3 languages, I'm multicultural. And that takes me a long way. It helps me be a really professional manipulator. And again, being a professional manipulator and having a good education, having the good ingredients, if you just leave the alcohol to one side, it makes you really functional, And actually, I use alcohol a lot to be even more functional because, I'm involved in a lot of social things and a lot of events and things like that. Now I've learned to have my ways of doing that, and that's now that I'm not drinking. I'm the guy who always drinks the club soda with the lime and little straw, and keep them coming. Don't let anybody never see me without that club soda with a lime. Why? Because, I don't want people to be forcing drinks on me, because they know me and they know that I was the life that I am. That's the other thing. I'm grateful because I thought I wasn't going to be the life of the party anymore. I don't even want to be the life of the party anymore, honestly. Hence, people expect things. And, I went through this last rehab. It was 6 weeks. It was just a very nice prison with good food. I learned a whole lot of things, because even if we weren't alcoholics and we go to a 6-week retreat where you have a counselor, a grief counselor, it would do good for anybody. And I think that's another reason to be grateful, because if I was an alcoholic, I probably wouldn't have been able to take 6 weeks because of the desperation of saying, if I don't, I'm going to just die. I was spitting blood. I was out of control. Your mind just goes into that monkey brain where you can't function. I know that this is a story that we all have in our own ways, so I'm not going to go too deep into that. You see, I made a bunch of notes, but I knew I was going to read these. I guess where it comes down to, if I go back real quick, is I lived always with fear. And how do you cover fear? You try to overcompensate. You try to fill the void. And you fill the void with alcohol. You fill the void with sex. You fill the void with activities, or, with things that, just whatever it takes. And that brings us to where we are. So, I've been living more, let's just say I've learned how to react better to things. I've learned to make the pause button a real pause, and not just a second where something happened, boom, I got to drink, or I got to think of drinking, and then all your mind and your world goes to thinking of drinking or drinking, or thinking of sex and doing it, or whatever, besides being truly happy and being able to look at yourself in the mirror. And I think, I'm 93 days, so, I've been sober several times for long periods of time. If you ever ask me why, like the typical question, why didn't it work? Trust me, I've asked myself that many, many times. And I think that what I can only say really is what the difference is, that I've really accepted. Acceptance is a huge thing. And I've let the spiritual part come into me. I think God is that extra, which is not the extra, it's really everything. I did an exercise in rehab, which I'll never forget, and I always share that, and I'd like to share that with you guys, is they made us make a list just the first couple of days, where everybody was crazy the first couple of days, especially crazy when you go into rehab the first days after detox. It's big crazy. And the guy just said, hey, look, I want everybody to make a list of your top 5 priorities of why you're here. why are you here? And I think, why are we here? It's a good exercise. In your mind, you say, well, for my family, we're taught family values is everything. So for my family, for my job, for my kids, for money, I need to get back on track. Oh yeah, for recovery, whatever. So the guy says, okay, so you guys, tell me what position you put recovery. And nobody here, I'm sure, probably if you knew the exercise, you knew. But if you didn't, you'd probably say, oh, family's first. You put all your other priorities, which are valid priorities. But recovery is always fourth or fifth or sixth. Mine was like sixth place because I actually remember, oh shit, I'm here for recovery. And then what the gentleman said, and I'll never forget this, and I say this so you guys never remember because it's moving, is that anything, if you put that at number 5, anything above recovery that you didn't put in number 1, you're going to lose. You're going to lose anyway. It's for sure. If you put family and all these things are very special to you, and recovery down here, and you don't put recovery first in your life, everything else is going to just fall apart like it has for all of us, and that's why we're here. So what has been different? I put recovery first, and it seems simple, but it's not. Well, it's easier said than done, but it's not. And coming to meetings is something that's the first thing in recovery. Getting a sponsor is the first thing in recovery. Getting into the big book is really, really important. Not reading through the pages, but digging through the pages. Getting that book like full of yellow and red and orange, and put the notes in, and then lose the book and get another one, and do the same thing again and again. But when you put recovery first, it's a good start. Let's say it's the only start. It's like walking through the door. It's like stopping that last drink that we have, or a drug or whatever. So putting recovery first is great for that. I'm very grateful. I just wanted to share that part with you. Let's see what else I got here. Ego is a huge thing too. We build up our ego progressively, and the higher you build that ego, the harder you fall. That's relapse. You put God in front of everything, and you see how things seem to be a little bit easier. If you really trust, instead of just saying the things that we say or praying the things, just like mumbling them out, feel them, read in between your own lines instead of the lines of everybody else, I think we're always, with that monkey brain, somebody tells something just very simple, and we're always thinking about the 99 things that thing means around what it really means, And I think, we have to be more sincere with ourselves. We have to learn to live with ourselves, to love each other and ourselves. To accept that support that it was so difficult, and it still is very difficult for me. I'm the most social person in the world. I know thousands of people, but like my dad said, you have really true friends. You can count them with one hand, probably. Hence, that doesn't mean that you have a lot of really people that you can identify with. And one of the other things that was taught to me is, we can't. I can't. You probably can't. Nobody can. He can. He can, meaning God or whoever we believe is our higher power. So the third step is, let's just let him. You have to let go. We have to let go. We have to let go of all those attachments, all those resentments, all that aversion. We have to get into spiritualism. I follow Buddhist practices, and I'm really intensely in love with the fact that you can let go. Meditation is not like, oh, let's meditate. No. It's letting go of thought. It's not grabbing onto thought. So if we learn to let go, I'm trying to let go. I continue to try to let go every morning. The good thing is, every day, the depth of one word, every day is one day. Let's do one day at a time. So if we're going to do one day at a time, dig into that concept. Reset the button every morning. Instead of, I wake up, just an example, I wake up at 4:30 every morning. And why I do that is, before it was because I had a hangover and I wanted to grab some aspirin or something or have another drink. But now it's because I'm putting on my tape recorder, and I listen to an AA talk on YouTube, which is really, really nice. You can just lay down there. You can go into YouTube and say, give me a guided meditation on peace and tranquility to begin my day. Boom. The point being, anything you guys do, any ritual you guys do, it's to reset a new day. So be thankful for that day. It's a lot easier to be thankful for one day And then maybe that day was a better day, and the next day was a less better day. Hence, it's not just simply saying, just, keep coming back. Those are things that are, yes, it's this, we're learning the same. These 12 principles and the 12 steps were created at day one, and they haven't been changed. Why do you think they haven't been changed? First, because nobody has invented a better way. That's one thing, in the commercially part, nobody is, with all this technology, nobody has fixed anything. No, the NA book is a little bit easier to read because it's a little more updated than the AA book, but it has exactly the same set, same message. They haven't, there's no need to reinvent the wheel. So I know we're all trying to figure out, let's do it my way. Just let go of your way. I've let go of my way. At least I'm trying to let go of my way. And, even when they say, oh, you were illuminated, or you had that, the 12 step, you found that golden secret or whatever, but that's that day. It's easier to find that day, to be enlightened that day than it is to be enlightened in general, because there's all kinds of shit that's coming our way, and it'll continue to come our way. And no matter if we're in a good situation or bad situation, something out of our control, that's why serenity prayer is there, will happen. It's guaranteed. It's just a question of time. We cannot swim against the current for our whole life. It's a given. We're proven examples of that. So we work on our character assets versus our character defects. We look at these things. I look at them. I mean, shit, it's only 90 days and I feel like I'm another person. I can only imagine what, and with all the respect to the old timers, I always say, Jesus, it's so frustrating. I've been, 1 year and a half. I went 3 years one time. And I'm looking at these people who have 15 and 20. It's almost resentment. I almost feel resentment about the fact that how the fuck did you get to 20 years? And the thing is, by letting go, because if you're not counting the days, maybe it's just a question of perception. Instead of, I'm going to finish up. Instead of counting the days that we've been sober, let's count the days that we've been free. How cool is that? To say, shit, 20 years. Pretty intense. Anyway, just a moment of silence from me. Okay, so the book has the solutions. I know it has the solutions. We have our solutions. I mean, we're all here. We can all help each other out. Don't be like me. When the meeting finishes, it's like, bang, the horses go to the running. You got to get to your car, and then when you're in your car and you drive, you say, where the fuck am I going? And why am I so in a rush? We're always in a rush. I'm always in a rush. I'm always trying to get somewhere else and say, hey, just practice the principles of mindfulness. Mindfulness is not just being here right now, and then when the bell rings and we do our prayer, everybody goes. No, I mean, let's make this a fun place. And I'm saying this to myself, okay? Let's make this a fun place to be. Let's make our lives a fun place to be. Let's be in love with ourselves, and let's let's not show off the light. Let's show in the light, And I think that light comes from love, and it comes from freedom, and it comes from not only stopping to drink, it comes from looking at ourselves and acknowledging and accepting who we are by who we are. Some people have diabetes. We have alcoholism, diabetes, at least you can have insulin. We can't. We don't have any drug that can take care of our drug problem. Well, I'm sure the pharmaceutical industry is looking for it, but it doesn't exist. The only thing that exists is God, and that's a sure thing. That's unlimited amounts. There's no contamination in the water. There's no contamination. There's nothing bad about it. It's all good. We should smile more to each other. We should live our lives, breathe better. It's as simple as just breathing and realizing how we deal with things when we deal with them. That pause that we're creating, and that's what AA has done for me. It is allowed a pause that before the crisis would come and boom, I'd be off to the races, which typically would be off to drinking or drugging, or off to the thought of craziness of drinking or drugging, or off to the character defects, because you need to fill the void somehow immediately. What AA has allowed me to do, thank God, is open the gap between the problem and the reaction. And it allows me to do that little ABC, cognitive behavior deal, where you think of it and you see, why am I thinking this way? And And how can I do that? So you grab the problem, you let it come to you, analyze it. You don't put your back to it. You analyze it, you think about it, and you let it go. And for me, it's worked. For me, it's worked, and it continues to work. And I'm going to be working on this for the rest of my life, like we all hopefully are. For some, it's easier than others. For all of us, it's really hard. I've realized that it's okay not to be okay in order to be okay, and that's a deep thing. So again, my name is George, and I'm an alcoholic. Thank you very much. Being just